Files of the Internet, my name is Adriana and today I'm here to talk about Just One Day by Gayle Forman. If I look like I haven't slept, it's because I haven't slept. I finished Just One Day at 5 o'clock in the morning and for some reason I woke up at 8. So my life is a mess and I just really want to talk about this book. So I finished it, like I said, last night, this morning, whatever, it was dark outside, and I had good feelings about it. Thankfully, I was doubtful at the beginning, but I had good feelings and I would like to talk about them a little bit. Spoiler free, I try to keep all of my reviews spoiler free, so don't worry about that if you haven't read the book yet. I thought my first Gayle Forman book should be Just One Day, and that is a contemporary YA romance novel, and it is about a girl who has just graduated from high school. Her name is Allison, and she and her friend Melanie are taking this trip with this sort of tour group in all of Europe, and they've ended up in London, I believe is their last stop. Their stop to Paris was canceled because there was some kind of boycott locally, and so they couldn't go to Paris, and Allison is really disappointed about that. So on her last day / morning in London, she meets this guy named Willem, and he offers to take her to Paris. So they go and they have this crazy day together. She wakes up the next day after they've spent this day together and he's just gone. So after that, the narrative follows Allison as she heads back to the United States and begins her college education, but she can't get Willem out of her head. I was doubtful at first, as I said at the beginning of this video, because there were some sort of negative things, and of course this book wasn't perfect, but I like the overall feeling of it, and I like the emotion that it left me with, all of the feelings. I didn't know I had all the feelings until the last page because of that ending. Let's talk about the good things that happened in this story first. The first positive thing about this story is that some of it is set in Europe. I love travel books. I really like the narration, which added to the overall aura of Europe. I think the way Gayle Forman describes certain things, it's a very visceral image, a very vivid image, and she likes to use a lot of the senses. I also really loved the middle part of this book a lot, and the end of this book a lot, which is kind of crazy because it's a YA romance, so I think a lot of people wouldn't like that a lot of the middle and the end has absolutely nothing to do with Willem, like he's MIA. It's really all about Allison's story, and you know, she is sort of depressed in the middle and she is sort of in a funk or a slump. A lot of people might see that section of the book as melancholy and they might feel like it's a downer on the overall romance of the story, but that was like my favorite part. I really liked it. I feel like you got to know Allison better, and I feel like her characterization like dramatically improved, and it was just really great. And I really think that the things she learns at the end of the story and what she takes away from this kind of crazy trip that happened is very good. I think she becomes a really strong character at the end. And in those last few chapters, I feel like there are some passages that, like, for young girls who may be reading this book, or really like anyone who's ever had their heart broken, it could be arguably some of the most important passages ever written in YA romance. Like, it was very powerful. So I love the atmosphere, I love the romance. I really grew to love Allison as a character. I really loved the story more and more as it progressed because I was doubtful in the beginning. And I just think overall, I like what I took away from the book. I think it's a really good message, and I think it was well written. I really wanted this girl to go find herself, and I feel like that's exactly what she did, and it was a great emotional journey, at least in my opinion. So those are the positives. Let's kind of go on to the negatives, because this was not a 5-star book for me, but I really liked it, but I think it had some bad things about it. The first bad thing that I immediately was sort of stuck on was that when Allison and Willem meet for the second time and they're sort of like flirting with each other, they're sort of flirting using rape jokes or sex slavery jokes. So I don't want to put anybody off. I'm not saying that it was a huge thing. They were these very quick lines, but to me they felt uncomfortable because I felt like maybe I was supposed to laugh, or maybe I was supposed to find it amusing, and I didn't. I found Allison's character in the beginning almost to be unlikable, because she is sort of a major downer on Europe, and she sort of starts talking about how she's very disappointed in her trip to Europe. Like, she just felt like very negative, like, oh, I think I'm bad at traveling because I really didn't enjoy this Europe trip. I really wish I could have gone to Paris because it would have been beautiful, because for some reason the rest of Europe was ugly to her. So I found that a little meh. No. I have my notes here, and it says Allison is unimpressed by Europe. Why? Is she blind? I really want to know. Concerned parties want to know. Another thing I didn't like about Allison in the beginning is that right after she meets Willem, she becomes very possessive about him. Very possessive about him. Like, if he so much as looks at another girl, or talks to another girl, or like touches another girl, breathes in the general direction of another girl, Allison gets really, really mad. Whenever she saw another female, Allison would become really insecure, and she'd be like, why is Willem here with me? Like, I'm such a loser, and I'm nothing compared to these girls. And it's just like, when you hear that like 5 times, you know, you start to believe the character. You're like, yeah, you know, you may be a little bit of a loser, because you won't stop talking about how you're such a loser in comparison with these European girls and their stiletto heels and their little black dresses. And I don't want you guys to think that I don't like a woman with flaws. Like, it's cool. I like that Allison had flaws. I really do. And I like seeing women who are not perfect, women who are jealous, women who are very self-conscious, or, you know, who doubt themselves. That's good, because I don't think we should be just writing perfect women who are just amazing all the time, having no doubts about anything, not worrying about anything because they have like this superior self-esteem, you know? So it's not that. I didn't like how Allison acted, how she had so strong of a claim over Willem, when really all they are is travel buddies. Like, really, that's the entire premise of their relationship. He's like, you want to go to Paris? I'll take you to Paris. So that, you know, I do think that Allison is an unlikable character in the beginning, but she grows so much by the end. So I just loved it overall. Like, I stopped saying that, but it's true. So this book had negatives and positives, but in my case at least, I felt like the positives outweighed the negatives in the end. So I ended up giving Just One Day by Gayle Forman 4 out of 5 stars. I really did end up loving the book, and I think the whole time I was sort of struggling with myself, because the realistic, logical part of myself said, you know, like, none of this would ever happen in real life, you know, like, this is strictly fiction. But, you know, it is fiction, and I did enjoy it. I actually read it in just one day, so that happened. Thank you guys again for watching, and thank you for sticking around for the review, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.